यदा हि अहं न वर्षत्यां यतो गर्मे अतन्दिर्थ मम वर्तमनो वर्तते मनुस्तेय प्रतशर्वसा. Translation: For if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. Puppet. In order to keep the balance of social tranquility for progress in spiritual life, there are traditional family usage meant for every civilized man. Although such rules and regulations are for the conditioned soul and not Lord Krishna, because he descended to establish the principles of religion, he followed the prescribed rules. Otherwise, common men would follow in his footsteps because he is the greatest authority. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is understood that Lord Krishna was performing all the religious duties at home and out of home as required of a householder. Hare Krishna.
All right, so we were hearing about how the self-realized soul has no duty to perform, but still he will engage in duties because he wants to set a proper example for others. And Lord Krishna had given 2 examples. Do you remember? Who were the examples? Ramya, do you remember? Narayan, do you remember?
Janaka Maharaj.
Yes. And who's the other example?
Prahalad Maharaj.
No. Janaka is one example Krishna gave, and then who's the other example he gives?
Krishna himself?
Yes, Krishna himself. Right. Krishna says that if I ever fail to engage in performing prescribed duty, then all men would follow my path. People follow what the great man does, right? We read that verse. Whatever actions a great man does, other people will follow. So Krishna is very careful to set the right standard because he's the greatest personality. He's the supreme personality of Godhead. So he has to show the right example for everyone. So the purport says all the rules and regulations are for the conditioned souls and not for Lord Krishna. But because he descends to establish, he also follows. He also follows. They're not for him, but to show the example, he also follows the rules and regulations. Otherwise, people will say, well, Krishna did this, I could do it. Well, if Krishna does it, why shouldn't I do it? But we have to be very careful. There are some activities which Krishna does, which are very special, and we should be careful not to imitate, right? Because we know Lord Krishna does some things like Rasa Lila, the dancing with the gopis. So we shouldn't try to imitate that. We shouldn't think, oh, Lord Krishna does this, I will imitate it. This is Lord Krishna's pastime of the spiritual world. And it's not mundane. It's not ordinary, not an ordinary material affair. And there's no lust. It's all very pure and transcendental. And Lord Krishna also picks up the Govardhan hill. You're going to imitate Krishna, then okay, you want to do Rasa Lila, then you pick up the Govardhan hill. Then you can do Rasa Lila. If you cannot pick up the Govardhan hill, then don't try to do Rasa Lila. Right? People are fond of imitation. So Lord Krishna wants to show them the right example. So Lord Krishna is saying he follows all the rules and regulations. Lord Krishna performed all the religious duties at home and out of home as required for a householder. because Lord Krishna is a householder. He has all of his wives and children. He has big families. So the householders have duties. And Lord Krishna does all the duties of the householder. Right? Any questions? Lord Krishna performed many superhuman activities, but at the same time he performed many activities which are ordinary, which are meant for ordinary people. He didn't only perform superhuman activities, he did also the normal activities. Normal activities means he would go to the Sudharma assembly every day and he would hear about the affairs of Dwarka and he will help to administrate the affairs of Dwarka. And when there was a solar eclipse, then Lord Krishna brought all of his family, they all went to Kurukshetra to perform sacrifice. Because when there's a solar eclipse, it's very inauspicious. So to counteract the inauspiciousness, Lord Krishna went with all of the family and wives, they went to Kurukshetra and they performed sacrifice and he gave a lot of charity. That's customary at the time of an eclipse, that you should give charity to the Brahmanas and to the great sages. So Lord Krishna did all this. And Lord Krishna also studied. He went to Gurukula. He went to the ashram, Sandipani Muni. He went to Avantipur. Avantipur today is called Ujjain, but Lord Krishna's Gurukula was there. Sandipani Muni's ashram. Krishna and Balaram both went there. We studied there. They spent, I think, 64 days there, and they learned all the 64 arts. They learned everything in 64 days. Any questions? Everybody's happy? You understand? We have to follow the example of Lord Krishna and not imitate.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Guru Maharaj?
Yes, Prabhu?
One question. Radha was married, but Krishna met in secret.
But Krishna what?
Appointment with Radha in secret.
Oh, secret.
But, Radha was married.
Radha was married.
Yes. With Ayan.
Abhimanyu.
Abhimanyu, okay.
Yes. Radharani was married to Abhimanyu.
Okay. Krishna meet in secret appointment with Radha.
Yes.
Is not a good example for society.
Yes, but you have to understand that Krishna met with the spiritual form of Radharani, goes to meet with Krishna in her spiritual body. Because Srimati Radharani is not an ordinary lady of the material world. She is the Lord Krishna and Radharani, they're actually one. Radha and Krishna are one, but they separated themselves to become two. And Srimati Radharani is the energy of Lord Krishna. She's called the Ladini Shakti, the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. Now, you say she's married, But her marriage was to Abhimanyu. And who is Abhimanyu? That Abhimanyu is actually Krishna.
Yes.
This is actually Krishna, but he takes the form of Abhimanyu for the pastime.
Yes, Abhimanyu Krishna. It's okay. I understand. Thank you.
So Guru Maharaj, a little out of the topic, but just now I know Abhimanyu is Krishna only. I was thinking some other personality. Okay.
No. Radharani is the property of Krishna. So Krishna comes. Sometimes he takes these different forms just to give pleasure to his devotees. Actually, all the gopis were married to Krishna. Because when the gopis were married, that was the time when Lord Brahma has stolen away all the cows. You know, the past time Lord Brahma stole the cows and the cowherd boys. Do you know that pastime? Brahma Vimohan Lila, the illusion of Lord Brahma. Brahma took away the cows and the cowherd boys from Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna expanded himself to take the place of all the cows and all the cowherd boys. Do you know the pastime? Vaishnavi.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I know the past time. Yes, Guru Maharaj.
So how long did it last for? How long did Lord Krishna take the place of the cows and the cowherd boys?
For 1 year?
Yes, for 1 year. Why 1 year? How much time was that for Brahma?
It was a moment's time of Brahma.
Right, it was one moment of Brahma, but it was 1 year here. And so for during that 1 year, that was when all the gopis got married. And that was when Krishna was playing the part of all the cowherd boys. So all the cowherd boys were married to different gopis. That time Krishna was all the cowherd boys. They were all married to Krishna because they all wanted Krishna for their husband. So Krishna accepted all of them as their husband, as his husband. Accepted all the gopis as his wives.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, very interesting to know this. But after that, after 1 year, the cowhead boys will come and become their husbands, right, Guru Maharaj, like that?
Yeah.
Mm.
But these cowherd boys are also not ordinary. They're all the very intimate associates of Lord Krishna. You have to understand who these people in Krishna's pastimes are not ordinary. You know, we try to understand these dealings of Krishna. We try to understand them with our material mind and senses. But it's not ordinary. It's not material. You know, it's not like our dealings with the opposite sex. You know, we get entangled and we get in love and different things, but the cowherd boys and the gopis, they're completely pure and transcendental. And they just have love of Krishna. They love Krishna, both the cowherd boys and the gopis. They both love Krishna. They're completely in love with Krishna at every moment.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Now it's more clear.
And Radharani, she has the greatest love of all the gopis. She has the greatest love for Krishna. And she cannot think of anybody else except Krishna at any time. And the thought of any other, she doesn't even look at any other man except Krishna. Her eyes would only fall on, her eyes can only look at Krishna. She cannot look at any other man. And Lord Balaram will never come where Radharani is. with Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. How did Mother Radharani married Abhimanyu? How did she? Is there a pastime for it, Maharaj?
Well, there may be, but I'm not so familiar with it. It's not described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada doesn't talk about these things. You know, until we learn the basic philosophy, until we get the basic knowledge right, we'll never understand these things. The pastimes of Radha and Krishna are on the highest platform. And unless you're very pure, you will not understand. So we have to first of all understand how Krishna does the creation and how he's working in the material world and his different incarnations. And then gradually, you become purified. Gradually, one day you may be able to understand more the dealings of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan. Because Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan are the highest. So you cannot understand the highest until you understand the basic. Just like if you go to college, you know, you have to study first of all, you have to qualify to get admission into college. If you don't know 1 + 1 = 2, then you can't study advanced mathematics. So we have to learn the basic principles of Krishna consciousness. And then gradually, we can come to understand the higher principles, which is Krishna's love and his dealings with the devotees, and particularly with the gopis. And these gopis, they have the highest love for Krishna. And we don't just want to hear pastimes and stories, you know, we want to understand properly this basic knowledge. So Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita. Doesn't speak anything about the gopis or Rasa Leela or anything like that, right? He's just teaching us. He said he's very careful to perform his prescribed duties, to do his prescribed duties, to set the right example for others. So if we all start talking about gopis and everything, then people will not understand, because everybody has material mind and they're conditioned and they're thinking about sense gratification, and the whole thing becomes ruined. So we have to keep it very pure. And we first have to understand Bhagavad Gita, the basic knowledge, get the basics right. Then gradually you can go on to understand more. You know, we still haven't understood we're not the body. We're still trying to satisfy our senses. We want to understand the highest thing. It's not possible. So we have to go step by step, study this Bhagavad Gita, understand the duties, what it means, prescribed duties, the duties of a householder.
I'm sorry, Maharaj. Thank you so much. It's clear now.
Okay, let's go ahead, Vaishnavi.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. 3.24 Utsihe dehur ime loka na kuryam karma chedham shankarasya cha kartasham upahanyam ima praja. Translation: if I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population. I would thereby destroy the peace of all living entities. Purport: Varna Shankara is unwanted population which disturb the peace of the general society. In order to check this social disturbance, there are prescribed rules and regulations by which the population can automatically become peaceful and organized for spiritual progress in life. When Lord Krishna descends, naturally he deals with such rules and regulations in order to maintain the prestige and necessity of such important performances. The Lord is the father of all living entities, and if the living entities are misguided, indirectly the responsibility goes to the Lord. Therefore, whenever there is general disregard of regulative principles, himself dissents and corrects the society. We should, however, note carefully that although we have to follow in the footsteps of the Lord, we still have to remember that we cannot imitate him. Following and imitating are not on the same level. We cannot imitate the Lord by lifting the Govardhan hill as the Lord did in his childhood. It is impossible for any human being. We have to follow his instructions, but we may not imitate him at any time. The Srimad Bhagavatam affirms, Naitat samachare jatu manasapi hi anishvaraha vinashyati acharan maudyat yata rudro abhijam visham. Ishvaranam vacha satyam tataivaacharitam kvachit tesham yat sva vacho yuktam buddhimamas tat samacharet. One should simply follow the instructions of the Lord and his empowered servants. Their instructions are all good for us, and any intelligent person will perform them as instructed. However, one should guard against trying to imitate their actions. One should not try to drink the ocean of poison in imitation of Lord Shiva. We should always consider the position of the Ishwaras, or those who have actually controlled the movements of the sun and the moon, as superior. Without such power, one cannot imitate the Ishwaras, who are super powerful. Lord Shiva drank poison to the extent of swallowing the ocean, but if any common man tries to drink even a fragment of such poison, he will be killed. There are many pseudo devotees of Lord Shiva who wanted to indulge in smoking ganja and similar intoxicating drugs, forgetting that by so imitating the acts of Lord Shiva, they are calling death very near. Similarly, there are some pseudo devotees of Lord Krishna who prefer to imitate the Lord in his Rasa Leela or dance of love, forgetting their inability to lift Govardhan hill. It is best, therefore, that one not try to imitate the powerful, but simply follow their instructions, nor should one try to occupy their post without qualification. There are so many incarnations of God without the power of the Supreme Godhead. Jai Shri.
Okay, so Prabhupada is warning us carefully about not trying to imitate. We have to follow the instructions. We're not on the same level. Lord Krishna appears. Earlier, Arjuna had given the reason that he was worried about Varna Shankara. Remember Varna Shankara, unwanted population? Arjuna was worried that if he fought, he said he'd be the cause of unwanted population. Because if he fought, he thought, well, what will happen? That the heads of the family may die in the battle. And when the heads of the family die in the battle, then the young men are not controlled, and the young men become irresponsible. And when the young men become irresponsible, then the women also become irresponsible, and they lose their chastity. And when the women lose their chastity, then the result is unwanted progeny. We get children we didn't want. We see, for example, unmarried mothers with children. You know, it's common in the world. So many ladies, they didn't get married, but they have a child. So Arjuna was worried that he would be the cause of that. But here, Lord Krishna is saying, he's saying that if you do fight, he said, if you don't fight, then you'll be the cause of that. Right? Krishna said, if I did not perform my duty, I would be the cause of creating unwanted population and destroy the peace. So just the opposite from what Arjuna was saying. Arjuna was saying, if I fight, it'd be the cause. But Krishna says, no, if you don't fight, you'll be the cause of Varna Sankara. So this defeats one of Arjuna's reasons for not fighting. So actually Krishna has defeated all of Arjuna's arguments for not fighting. So important to perform duty. So Krishna comes to show the proper standard. We have to follow in the footsteps. We cannot imitate him. Krishna, we say Gopi Jana Balava Girid Baridari, right? He's Gopi Jana Bal. We say Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. This Kunja Bihari is enjoying the pastimes with the gopis in the forest, but Gopi Jana Balava Girid Baridari is also picking up the Govardhan hill. When Indra became angry and sent the Samvartaka clouds to inundate Vrindavan, Lord Krishna could pick up the Govardhan hill, and all the people of Vrindavan and all the cows were protected by the grace of Krishna. So we have to understand Lord Krishna is not an ordinary man. He's superhuman. He is the supreme personality of Godhead. And this was just one of his pastimes. Actually, he's holding up all of the planets. So we have to understand carefully the pastimes of Lord Krishna. You have to step by step. People are so eager sometimes, they want to go immediately to hear about Rasa Leela, and they haven't understood how Krishna creates. Just like when we go to see the deity in the temple, we should look first of all at the feet of the deity, right? When you go to see the deity at the temple, first we should look at the feet of the deity. Then gradually you look up towards the face. So the feet of the deity are represented by the basic knowledge, like we have in Srimad Bhagavatam, the first 2 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. They are called the Pada Padma, the lotus feet of Krishna. And the 10th canto, where we hear about Krishna with the gopis, that's the 10th, that's like the face of the Lord. So first you look at the feet, and then gradually you work up the body of the Lord, you come to the face. So we don't try to understand the most confidential pastimes of Krishna in the beginning. First you have to understand who is Krishna. First we have to understand who we are, and then we can go on to understand who is Krishna. If we don't know who we are, if we haven't understood that we are souls, we'll never understand Lord Krishna. And so it's very important to go step by step. So Bhagavad Gita is like the beginning of spiritual knowledge. We say like the ABC of the spiritual knowledge. You know, the alphabet begins with ABC. So we learn the alphabet first, and then you learn to pronounce the words. So Bhagavad Gita is the basic knowledge. We have to understand Krishna's position. We have to surrender to Krishna. But before you can surrender to Krishna, we have to understand who we are. And we have to understand how we're struggling with our mind and senses. We want to be God. We're envious of Krishna. We want to imitate Krishna. We have all of these problems. So it's important for us to understand everything carefully. Don't try to imitate Krishna. Don't try to be God. Remember, we're tiny, insignificant, little servant of Krishna. And we want to realize that position, realize ourselves as a spirit soul with an eternal relationship with Krishna as his servant. So Prabhupada talks also about Lord Shiva, how Lord Shiva is a great devotee, but some people try to imitate Lord Shiva. But they will do things like take the marijuana, but Lord Shiva rather, he also drank poison. So Lord Shiva doesn't just only take marijuana, but he also drinks poison. So Prabhupada said, if you want to imitate Lord Shiva, then can you drink poison? And not just a little bit of poison. He drank a whole ocean of poison. He took all the poison off the ocean. So Lord Shiva is very compassionate. He's a Vaishnava. He could do these things. We cannot imitate. We cannot imitate these great souls. We should understand their exalted position, and we should offer our respects to them. Okay, there are many so-called incarnations without the power of God, right? So somebody says he's an incarnation of God, they have to prove it. How do you prove someone's an incarnation of God? Narayan, how will you know who's an incarnation of God?
He has to have the 6 opulence, Maharaj.
Well.
And even the Vishwarupa, if he can show his universal form, Maharaj.
They should, if they're an incarnation of God, it should be stated in the scriptures. There should be a scriptural reference that this incarnation of God is going to appear, at what place he's going to appear, and what he's going to do. These incarnations of God are all predicted, and they're told in the Srimad Bhagavatam, just like Lord Buddha was predicted 5,000 years ago, Lord Buddha would appear. And there's another prediction. The prediction is also there about Lord Chaitanya, how Lord Chaitanya would come and spread the Sankirtan movement. And we're told also at the end of the Kali Yuga, then Kalki will come. At the end of the Kali Yuga, Kalki will come. That's the incarnation. At the end of Kali Yuga, Kalki comes on a horse and he kills the people who are left, and then we begin Satya Yuga. So somebody may say, you say the opulence, they may say, well, I have these opulence, and you may say, no, you're not very beautiful. Somebody else says, no, he's very beautiful. It's a very relative thing, who's beautiful, who's good looking, who's very strong. Somebody says, I'm strong. No, you're not strong. Very relative, difficult to establish someone as God. You say he's Bhagavan. And somebody else may say, show the universal form. They say, well, I'm showing it. Can you see it? No, I can't see it. They say, oh, you can't see my universal form because you're conditioned. You don't have the eyes to see my form. But I'm showing the universal form. You see, I'm showing it, but you can't see it because you're a conditioned soul. But if they can support that they're an incarnation of God with a verse from the scriptures, then that's proof. So we want to see it's mentioned in the scriptures, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
All right, any other question?
Guru Maharaj, how if Arjuna, if he didn't do his duty, how there will be Varna Shankara, Guru Maharaj? I understand, because his question was if there is a big war, there will be so many men who died and the woman will be unprotected, there will be Varna Shankara. But if he doesn't fight, if we fight, how then there will be no Varna Shankara, Guru Maharaj?
If he fights, why will there not be any Varna Shankara? Because if Arjuna fights, then they'll do their duty. Everybody's doing their duty. So they're more responsible to follow their duties. Mm-hmm. But the Varna Shankara comes about when people become irresponsible. They don't want to do their duties. They don't want to get married. They don't want to take a family. They don't want responsibility. They just want sense gratification. So that's the problem. If people don't do their duties, then you get the Varna Shankara. But when they do their duty, just like Arjuna's duty is to fight, so they're going to fight. All right, they're going to fight. That's the duty. They're performing their proper function. And everybody will do their proper duty. Everybody knows their duty, what duty they have to do. The people who are at home, the people who are not fighting, they also have a duty. And the ladies also have a duty. They perform their duty. If the men become immoral, the ladies will follow them. But if the men are moral, the ladies will also be moral.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
So the
Now
ladies,
it's clear.
the ladies saw their husbands go to battle, and many of them died. And so then these ladies became widows, right? And the ladies who were not married, the young ladies, they will grow up and they will get married. Marriage will be arranged for them. So that way you don't get Varna Sankara. You get the women married properly, religiously. But if the women are not protected, the women are just left to go alone, to run around with men, then it's bad. Right?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yeah. One Russian devotee, he told me that there was a war in their country, and after that there was such a collapse, like this kind of Varna Shankara, like that. I don't know much about the history, but yes, Guru Maharaj. Yeah.
Varna Sankara is there. This Kali Yuga everywhere. You don't need wars. Before the war and after the war, it's all Varna Sankara. So much. If you look, these so-called countries, America, Australia, the UK, everywhere, so many unmarried mothers, so many Varna Shankara. Because the government, some of these countries, the government will maintain. If the woman has a child and no husband, the government will give maintenance. They'll give the house, they'll give the allowance every month. So the woman is very happy. She's got a child and she doesn't have to worry about a husband. And she's got maintenance coming from the government. So the governments encourage this kind of thing. They make it so easy for them. And there's so many young people, so many people like this, so many ladies who come through this. So the problem is these children, they grow up in the unnatural home. They only have one parent, they only have the mother. So they don't get a very good chance in life. They're just going to, develop bad habits, no proper education, no proper training. Many of the drug addicts and the criminals, they come from this kind of background. Okay?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
So are we going to chant one round today?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. We can chant. Do you have time, Guru Maharaj, for the next class, before the next class?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare